Before we begin, I do have to say there's going to be some Smurf spoilers in this video, if you care about that sort of thing. Now, if you're at all familiar with my channel, you know that for eternity, I've had a burning hatred for the Smurfs. I've always thought they were the weirdest, worst little freaks, completely unfunny and cringe in every respect. However, despite my disdain for their existence, I was always able to ignore them for the most part. I didn't like them, and they made two films I figured would be of completely dubious quality, and I avoided the franchise like the plague. However, a little while back, we saw the release of a trailer for the upcoming Smurfs film, and yeah, it looked pretty bad to my eyes, and I scoffed. I exited the tab on my browser window, and I went on with my day. I figured I'd never see this movie, and so I can safely delete it from my brain. Then the intrusive thoughts started coming in. Wouldn't it be funny to make a video on this trailer that you hate? Whispered my subconscious. I of course held firm to my initial belief, for about 5 seconds, until I decided to make the video. I'm only making the video about the trailer, I insisted to myself. It's not like I'm actually gonna see the film or anything. And then I released the video, and the voices whispered, oh, but now if you don't see the film, you'll have a trailer breakdown that leads absolutely nowhere. Why would you do that? My inner completionist was screaming at me, and so once again, I capitulated and I resigned myself to actually having to pay money to go and see the Smurfs in the cinema. Fair enough, I deserve it. What I'll never understand, though, is why the hell I thought that this means I should go and watch the original Smurf movies from the 2010s starring Neil Patrick Harris. I shouldn't have, because they are absolutely some of the worst films I've seen in recent memory. Seriously, the first one especially is a rough watch, with very few positive qualities to be seen. At least the second film had some decent acting from some of the live-action actors, like Brendan Gleeson. Despite them being terrible, they also somehow made a lot of money, at least the first one did. Made $563 million off of $110 million, whilst the second one seemed to crash and burn a little bit more, only managing $347 million off a budget of $105. Whilst those numbers don't really seem all that bad to me, they were to the studio, who promptly shut things down and cancelled the franchise before rebooting it with an animated film that grossed $167 million off $60 million, which, no. I don't think that's what they were going for, considering the franchise then went completely dormant for 8 years until this 2025 reboot. Will this film do well at all? Who even knows at this point? I doubt it, to tell you the truth. I mean, look at those numbers. The final two were considered unsuccessful at the box office, and I don't see this Smurfs being able to compete. Superman just released last weekend, and that's a big family draw that's still going to carry over to this weekend. Prior to that, Jurassic World Dominion was out, and that's still going strong with a powerful showing at the box office. Both of those franchises siphon out the family market, even if Jurassic World can probably be a little bit scary for kids. I mean, it's dinosaurs. Kids eat that up. Then the weekend afterwards, we'll see the release of Fantastic Four First Steps, which is going to gobble up even more of the market and suck the money out of Paramount's pockets. Then you can combine that with the fact that seemingly nobody is talking about it at all. I've hardly seen any ads talking about how it's coming out soon. I've seen no real hype or discussion, and shit, there's still pretty much no reviews for it either. Just one from New Zealand.
He should be here.
The film's been out for a while in some markets like Australia and New Zealand, yet no real recorded reviews, no audience response. Don't the reviewers usually see the film ahead of time anyway? Aren't they cutting it a bit fine here? You can't have a successful film launch with no marketing campaign, can you? I took another look around the internet, and it does have IMDb and Letterboxd scores, and both of them are not complimentary to the movie in the slightest, so yeah, I'm not expecting this one to be considered good by those who see it, and I think it's going to be very quietly shuffled off to the side and forgotten about. I did see that they just had the US premiere in LA the other day, but it doesn't seem like it was much of a big deal from what I was looking at. I don't know, I guess it just feels odd to me, especially since they went out of their way to actually get some really big name actors for the film, which, when it all adds up, should not have been cheap at all. You'd think based on that they'd be trying to hard launch this thing to give themselves the best possible chance for the weekend. Let's just take a look at the cast. You've got Rihanna continuing the tradition of casting singers as Smurfette after Katy Perry and Demi Lovato. You've got James Corden as No Name Smurf, John Goodman as Papa Smurf, you've got Sandra Oh, Octavia Spencer, Jimmy Kimmel, Nick Kroll, Hannah Waddingham, Nick Offerman, Kurt Russell for God's sake. I mean, there's even more than that, but you get the picture, don't you? They're casting this thing like as the blockbuster Disney movie that's going to be a smash hit and be the story of the summer, and so they want everybody to be involved, and yet instead it's the latest Smurfs reboot that looks pretty bad from the trailer and seems to be on track to bombing at the box office. My goodness, what is going on with this movie? Seems like a fever dream. Of course, like I said, before I went to see it, I checked reviews, but since it was only out in ANZ, it seemed like there were none for me there. I was flying blind. So I checked who the director and screenwriter were. Screenwriter, part of the writing team that wrote Ruby Gillman. One of Ruby Gillman's biggest flaws and failings, despite being an absolute box office bomb, was the fact that it was kind of badly written. I don't have my exact critiques on hand with me right now, but I do know it just wasn't it. The same woman's also writing SpongeBob later this year, so I guess we'll see how that goes, but I'm not filled with hope. Director though, a little more so. This dude made the first Puss in Boots film, which I thought was pretty good, so I suppose I was hopeful on that score. All of this led me to my seat in the theatre to watch the film. And it was decent, I suppose, at least in comparison to the previous Smurf films I've watched.
Is a Smurf's butt blue?
I wouldn't ever want to watch it again, but for the most part it wasn't egregiously offensive to my eyes or my ears, and I wasn't in agony like when I watched The Smurfs 2 just a little while ago. You know what actually got me in a good mood before the movie started though? I hadn't realised there was going to be a short film playing before the film. Got some SpongeBob goodness with SpongeBob Order Up, which is essentially about SpongeBob driving Squidward insane, using the Order Up bell to the point that he utterly destroys it, only for Squidward to discover that SpongeBob has absorbed the bell and is now able to make the ding noise with his nose. It looked way more old school than I was expecting, having been made in 2012, and it was really funny. Already I was in a good mood, and it let me give the benefit of the doubt to the Smurfs from the start. They immediately squandered this by having Papa Smurf DJing whilst all the Smurfs sing and dance before he claims that was a banger song. Ugh.
Just kill me now!
He has a point.
Papa Smurf, why? Why? Also, side note, usually I'd be able to follow along with the plot synopsis when I'm talking through the story, but since this film is so untalked about, and I waited a while before writing this video, a lot of stuff has fallen out of my brain. Let's hope it wasn't everything though. We meet our Smurfs with it being made clear that every Smurf has their thing, their reason for existing and being a Smurf, their life purpose, and that forms their name. Well, that is every Smurf except for No Name Smurf, who, as the name would imply, has no real name due to the fact that he has no thing. He has no reason to exist, and so he tries a bunch of different things. Clog making, shark taming, and yet nothing sticks, until he eventually discovers that he's a magic Smurf. But in his excitement, he accidentally opens a portal to the real world, and attracts the attention of Razamel, the younger brother of Gargamel, who's been hunting the Smurfs for years to get back Jaunty Grimoire. One of 4 magical spellbooks that Razamel and his cabal of intergalactic wizards all wish to acquire. The other 3 have their spellbooks, now Razamel just needs Jaunty and they can all rule the universe. He manages to kidnap Papa Smurf, who's left behind instructions to find him. They also kidnap Gargamel at some point before he ends up getting sucked into the portal as well and saved by Razamel, who rather regrets it because he kind of hates his brother and he actually abandoned him in the Smurf world to begin with because he finds him extremely annoying. I will say this opening section was actually a lot of fun. I laughed quite a bit in these early parts. Surprisingly, the jokes were rather decently written, apart from the bangers line and the occasional Smurf pun which sapped my desire to go on living, and so at this point I thought the movie was rather decent. However, that's the limit. Except for one brief scene where it becomes a genuinely good movie, the film is decent at best with its story. It becomes a deeply generic action-adventure, focusing on Smurfette and No Name as they and their band of Smurfs who get no lines go on an adventure. They find Papa Smurf's brother Ken, who's a nothing burger character who adds absolutely zero to the plot. Then they go off to find Papa, meet the Schnooderpoots, who are once again nothing burger creatures. They infiltrate the castle, they get captured. It's revealed that Jaunty was inside No Name's hat the entire time, and so he wasn't actually magic. Before Razamel betrays his brother and the other wizards and unites the Grimoires to take control of the multiverse and starts killing all the Smurfs, until No Name Smurf discovers that he in fact is magic, becomes Magic Smurf and whoops his ass in an epic battle across space and time, with Smurfette coming along for the ride. They beat him, they make a truce with Gargamel for the day, and they all go back to Smurf Village to party. Hooray! Like I said, the movie is decent in terms of the story, but it never rises beyond that. It is kind of funny at times, but it's also very plotting. Too many superfluous characters that bring nothing to the table. Say what you will about Smurfs 1 and 2, but at least they tried to develop an ensemble cast and give them all clear-cut personalities and role within the story. To give them moments. This one, it didn't succeed at that, to tell you the truth. Really, the narrative side of things was just very mid. It's better than any other Smurfs film I've seen, but that's like saying you prefer to eat cardboard than dirt. It's an obvious statement, and yet doesn't get your stomach rumbling. The animation was also kind of poor across the board. It just didn't look good, whether it's the style or the quality. It felt like I was watching a made-for-TV film from the mid-2010s, rather than an actual theatrical release. It just looked cheaply made, and whilst I don't have the budget in front of me, I would suspect it was made on the cheap. If this costs anywhere near what it takes to make a Disney or Pixar feature, then people either need to be fired instantly or investigated for tax fraud. I'm just shocked that a major company is releasing a film that looks so mediocre in cinemas. That being said, there is one scene that is by far the best in the entire movie, where Razamel chases Magic Smurf and Smurfette across the multiverse. There's lots of different animation styles that are used in this section, and at one point, it becomes a fighting anime complete with dramatic Japanese voice acting. And it was in this moment that I realized that the way to continue the Smurfs franchise should be as an over-the-top Smurfs anime with all the Smurfs being muscled up hunks. That is how you can get me properly invested in the franchise, and I have a feeling that people would eat it up for the absurdity alone. It was so funny seeing this blue muscle Chad with no shirt, and then he's wearing this silly white hat on his head. Whoever thought of this concept justified the existence of the entire film just with this scene. The music's nothing to write home about, to tell you the truth, and I found the original songs forgettable for the most part. However, that being said, it's not all doom and gloom for the audio side of things. I found the voice acting really good. Even Rihanna, who's much better than Katy Perry in the role. Oh yes, James Corden. I know it's the popular thing to hate on him these days, but he was genuinely good as no-name/magical Smurf. In the end, this film was mid. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was mid. A 5 out of 10, a 50%, completely middle of the pack. It's decent enough to watch on a streaming service on a rainy day with nothing better to do, but I wouldn't pay money to go and see it unless it was my job. Of course though, these have all just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the Smurfs' latest reboot if you've seen it? Did you like it? Hate it? Was I too harsh? Not harsh enough? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.